Welcome back to the channel, guys. Josh here, and today I want to talk about something very near and dear to my heart. Are financial advisors dead? Are they toast? Are they done? Because I'm a financial advisor and I'd prefer not to be dead, if I'm quite frank. And there's just been this crazy stuff going on around in my country. I'm not sure where you are, what you're seeing on your advertisements. Maybe I just see them because it's what I do for a living. But there's all these different advertisements on TV about like these different families who are like victims and they're going in to see some financial advisor and they're like,
I can't afford to put food on the table for both of us, Mr. Advisor.
and it's talking all about like financial advice fees, and there's like her holding her baby and she's talking all about how much her financial advisor's ripping her off. And there's other advertisements from companies like up here where I am, we have companies like Questrade and Wealthsimple, but there's also like Betterment and E-Trade and all these different things. They're advertising as if the financial advisor is, they're the adversary. They're the person that we have to beat down. And it's really funny because in addition to that, we have now the big banks up here releasing their own advertisements, fighting against those ads. It's kind of this media clash battle. So today I want to talk about, are financial advisors dead? Are they going away? And take an objective look at myself and see, is what I'm doing valuable and is this going to continue on for a long time? But first, before I get into any of that, I want to thank today's sponsor who will keep me alive even if my financial advisory career dies. Railway Roasters. This coffee right here is wonderful. It is made by an actual personal friend of mine who built this coffee brand around this railway heritage. They have all these different types of roasts. When I'm working, let's say I'm working a late night or I need to get that jolt in the morning because I stayed up way too late the night before, I make sure that I save money by making my own coffee at home because, as you guys all know, many months ago, I actually had this killer Starbucks habit, which I'm trying to kick. So now I use Railway Roasters. Make sure to hit that link in the description below and go check them out and get yourself a bag of coffee so you can be just like me. So anyways, are financial advisors dead? Am I about to be automated? Well, if I'm quite frank, I think we're all about to be automated. I think everything, with maybe the creative types at the very, very end, people who, produce great video or they do art or they make music. These are things that are hard for machines to kind of recreate. But when we have processes and systems and kind of decision trees, that's where a computer can come along and just kind of destroy everything. And I shouldn't say destroy everything. They actually make everything cheaper and faster and better, but they destroy the current jobs that exist now. And this is one of the funny things I find about this whole automation craze. Everyone's talking about, well, are we gonna all lose our jobs to AI and technology? Well, at one point there were people who sold horses and there were people who drove people around in carriages, okay? And then at some point there were people who gave you fire and candles and now we have light bulbs. There are always new technologies replacing old ones, okay? And I think that is kind of what we're seeing with a lot of new technology now that's coming out. We're seeing, first of all, the internet, okay? Wow, Josh, brilliant insight. We have the internet now. No, what I mean by this is, traditionally, the financial advice business, when you went to see a financial advisor or wanted to do investing, what you were really doing is they were earning a commission to give you information. That was really the trade. You're gonna tell me what I need to know and where I need to put my money, and you're gonna earn a commission to do that. Now, with the internet, people literally just write blog posts. They make 10-minute videos 3 times a week, just like this one. Make sure to hit subscribe, hit that like button if you want to see more. All that being said, this information is now free online. There's a ton of research papers, there's a ton of different places you can go to get really fantastic insights and research on investing. And if you read enough and learn enough, you can run your own investment. So the internet, first and foremost, kind of destroyed this whole trade-off between we give you info, you give us commission. Because now you can just get the information for free without a commission, and all you have to do is hit skip ad every time those come up. That's pretty easy. It's a lot easier for you. And I think another reason why we're starting to see financial advisors maybe be criticized a little more is, for the longest time, and this, I shouldn't say an error of my own, this was long before I was in the industry, but throughout the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s, financial advisors were a lot like stockbrokers. They were more so in a sales job, and their whole value proposition is, I'm gonna get you higher returns than you can get elsewhere. And over time, the research essentially came out and said, no, they won't. There's no financial advisor can guarantee that they're gonna get you a higher rate of return. The only thing that really corresponds with higher rates of return is lower fees. Morningstar did a study on that if you wanna look it up. The only correlation between now and future performance is who has the lowest fee. That's where great performance comes from. And since financial advisors tend to have higher fees than maybe going with the robo-advisor or doing it yourself, that is also a negative towards the financial advisors. It's not really going to help them out in that battle. So all in all, on that point, if you think that the role of a financial advisor is to get you higher returns, first of all, you're wrong. And second of all, absolutely, that would create a way better case for the fact that they shouldn't exist and we should all just do it ourselves and maybe even just use robo-advisors like Betterment or Wealthsimple or what have you. And the last thing is, with more and more research coming out all the time about what creates a successful investment plan or a successful portfolio, it has gotten easier and easier for the public to differentiate between which advisors are full of crap and which ones are actually telling the truth. And what you find is that most advisors are salespeople. They got into this job because it has great work-life balance after the first 5 years, and you can make quite a bit of money 10 years out. And that's really what they're there for. They're not there to really help you maximize your personal finances. So for all those reasons, it really does look like going online to this beautiful user interface where you can log on and automate your finances and put your investments away and they're going to grow over time. That starts to look really compelling. But there's a few things in my experience which lead me to believe it's not that simple. And although I do really like the idea of having these new technologies emerge, like for instance, full disclosure, my entire business essentially runs off of a robo-advisor in the back end. So there's a lot of automation and stuff that we're already amalgamating into our business to make it run more effectively. But one of the really interesting things when I deal with clients is I'm really kind of, for better or for worse, not because I want to be or I think this is a good excuse, I find over and over that I'm in the reassurance business. And I'm in the business of helping people understand that they've made the correct decision, or, how much am I saving relative to your average client? Or how much do I have invested relative to people my age? Or should I be doing more relative to other people? People really want to know, how am I doing relative to my peers? Should I be doing more? Am I doing too much? Am I ahead? They want to understand whether or not what they're doing is right. And that's just not something that they're going to get from a computer. Money and our relationship with it is deeply personal and it's deeply emotional. A computer is not remotely emotional or personal, right? So it appears there's a disconnect. If we're being intellectually honest, the right thing is probably a mixture of the two. Most financial advisors out there are probably too analog and are too slow adapting to these changes, while these digital platforms are doing something really, really impressive. Whereas the digital platforms just don't really have that ability to connect and give their clients reassurance and kind of advise on the softer skills that I think most, not all, but I'd probably say 75% of the public really needs to run a successful investment plan. Lastly, I think there's always really going to be people who either care way too little or care way too much. And let me give you an example. In my business, I'm finding all the time that we have clients that come to us not because they don't have the smarts, they don't have the curiosity, they don't have the initiative. They come to us because they're like, I don't care about this at all. I have a lot of money that I've saved over time. I know I should be investing, but the last thing on my mind that I could ever care to do on my own or to even put an ounce of thought towards is investing my own money and figuring out how to position it for taxes and what should I do with my insurance and how do I file and all these different things, right? There are always people who just won't care enough. And that's where I think a personal relationship with an advisor could be really helpful if you want that education without having to be involved. And then there's the opposite end of the spectrum. If I'm an ultra high net worth investor with $10 million or more, I probably want to have some assurance that there's a human looking over my stuff. I mean, yes, these computer systems are probably very good by now. They're not making a ton of errors, these robo-advisors and digital platforms. But all that being said, you want to make sure that there are humans and sophisticated humans looking after the wealth that you've amassed over the course of your life. If you spend your whole life building a technology company and you've sold it, you have $10 million to your name, and now you just want to throw it in some robo-advisor because the fees are lower, that's not going to happen so much. That ultra high net worth segment is always going to want personal oversight. So that's something to think about as well. And altogether, the funniest thing is that the people who always decide to do it themselves and maybe trade their own stocks or start their own robo-advisor account because they don't want to be with an advisor, hey, All the power to you. That's great. But they always DM me, they always comment, they always send me messages saying, what do you think about my portfolio? Should I be doing this for tax? It's like, well, why didn't you just get a financial advisor in the first place? I mean, if you're really not comfortable answering those questions yourself, maybe you've taken the wrong path. And I think at the end of the day, that's the exact lesson here, is if you're willing to dedicate years and put all the time and effort and money and energy into learning everything about taxes and estate planning and insurance and projections and inflation and all these different things that you need to create a successful investment plan, you should probably do it yourself, because you're going to save yourself a ton of money relative to the time, and you have that passion for doing it. On the other hand, I think there will always be people who really understand the value of their time, and it's typically more sophisticated people who have thought about this. The reason a lot of people hire me isn't because they're not smart enough, or isn't because they think I'm a better investor than them. It's because they know their time is way more valuable having me manage the money than having them all day long looking at their stocks or trying to monitor different positions or placing trades. They're doing their thing in their entrepreneurial endeavor, or they're a high-performing lawyer, or they're doing this or that, and they just don't have the time to do it, so they hire someone like me to do it. So all of that being said, I'm not sure where I stand on this whole thing. I mean, am I worried? I'd be worried, but Haven, my company, has a waiting list of 75 clients waiting to get in the door. So it's not as if I'm freaking out like the robots are going to take over. But at a certain point, we're all going to get automated, and I'm just trying to stay ahead of it and be as technology friendly as we can. But anyways, guys, that's my thoughts on whether financial advisors are dead or not. There is certainly a good case to be made that they won't be around for too much longer, but I also think that it's going to be a while, and probably longer than people expect before that happens. So if you learned anything from this video whatsoever, make sure to hit that like button below and hit subscribe for more videos just like this one every single week. Until next time.